coming out here this morning, and I guess we're starting early, which is great. So today we're going to do a couple of things. I'm going to talk about my book, which is a mystery about a girl who wants to be a famous musician. Are there anybody who plays an instrument? Lots of people. Okay, we're going to talk about instruments because it's a book about a missing instrument. And the other part of it is that it's a mystery. So after I tell you a little bit about myself and the book, we're actually going to come up with a mystery story of our own. Okay, we're going to do it together. Have any of you written a mystery before? Oh my gosh, there's so many hands. All right, so this might be old stuff for you, so we'll need your help. Okay, so let's get started. I have two pictures I wanted to show you. Could I have a volunteer, somebody to help me? How about you? What's your name? Annalise. Can you hold this up so that everybody can see? And I have this one here. I guess you can tell what this one. Can you help me hold this one up? Now, I actually have 3 of these, and during my talk, I'm going to give 3 of them away to people who can answer my question first. I'm going to have some hard questions for you guys. Okay, not really. So these 2 pictures is what I want to talk about first. Does anybody know what these are? You. Well, this is the cover. What do you think this is? You.
The original cover?
The original. That's a good guess. It is the original. And what I wanted to talk about was, well, what do you think has changed between? This was the original. So when I first started off, the book was all edited and finished. My editor sent me this picture, and this was the original sketch. The idea that the illustrator had for the cover. And then a couple of things changed. Maybe the kids can stand next to each other. Can everybody see the picture really well? If not, would you mind walking down the aisle so people can see it? What has changed from the original to the new one? And why? Why do you think?
The new one has buildings in the background.
The new one has buildings in the background, so you can see there's a background there. Here, there's nothing in the back. Why do you think that changed?
Because I think in the story, to make it like a mystery story, I think it should be night.
Okay, so night, yeah, the night's definitely, it's gone from day to night. But the buildings, who knows what's important about this, having this building there, the city line there? You.
That, so you know that where you're probably at, like maybe in the city or something.
Okay, so that's right. This kind of gives you a sense of where the story could be taking place. Does anybody know where that city line could be? Yeah. You had to guess.
In the train station.
Yeah, what do you think the city line could be? Could it be New York City? No.
I think.
Where do you think it could be?
India.
India, right. So I don't know if any of you have been to India. Have any of you been to India? But someday if you go, or even if you just go online, you might see buildings that look like this. There's a really famous building in the northern part of India called the Taj Mahal. It's done in white. I mean, it's a white building, but it has this kind of shape. So one of the things we felt is, well, when you look at this cover, does it look like India?
No.
So what does it look like?
Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon. I thought it was like the French countryside. That's what it looked like to me. It didn't look like India to me. So to make it seem like it was from that part of the world, we put in something like that. Okay, yeah.
Are you Indian?
I am Indian. Yeah, I'm from India, actually. I was born there, but I grew up here. And I'm going to talk about that. Yeah.
The 2 covers, one of them looks like it's supposed to be in the morning, one of them is in the night. And how the book is a mystery, I think mysteries go more in daytime.
In fact, you're thinking just like the sales and marketing team. They felt this wasn't mysterious enough. You're absolutely right. How can we make it more mysterious? We changed it to night. Okay, so night, and then the cityscape in the background. Anything else changed? You.
The clock and the father and
Yeah, the clock. The time is different.
Yeah.
Well, this is night, so I think they changed it because of that. Yeah.
And that picture, there's just one, and then the second picture, there's train.
Yes, yes. This more seems like a train station with actual trains going. There's something else. I'm gonna bring this a little closer. Can anybody see what's changed with the girl? The girl is different here. Yeah.
I can't see it.
I can't see
Just
that.
wait. She didn't want a black coat and that picture. She just wanted
So I'm gonna hold it so everybody can see. She's wearing a black coat in South India, where even in December, it's like at least 75 degrees outside. She's wearing a black coat, right? So,
And
does that make sense? Yeah.
and that one, she's kind of the skin color and how her hair is.
Yeah, the hair is important because in the book, if you read Neela's hair, this is the main character, Neela, her hair is long. Okay, she's Indian. She's Indian American, but her hair is long, and I thought that was important. These are all things that I thought were important to the character. Sure. We can pass, you know what, we can pass this around so you can look at it more carefully. Okay? So those were some of the changes that I thought were important to the book. Now, the cover is really the first time you meet a book. You know, when you go to the bookstore, you go to the library, the cover is going to say, come on in, read my book, or not, you know, or you might be turned off from the cover. But that was not the only thing that was important to me. I wanted the cover to be as beautiful and as wonderful as possible, but I also wanted it to be about the story, right? And I felt like I had written a book that hadn't been written before. It was a mystery about an Indian American. Somebody asked me, am I from India? I was born in India, and then I grew up in Iowa. I came here in the 1970s. And just to give you a sense of what it was like then, there was no internet. You know, there was no internet. There were no author visits. Nobody came to our school to talk about their books. There really weren't bookstores. You know, there were, but I usually went to the library to get my books. So that's what my life was like when I was growing up. And coming from India, you know, a lot of people didn't know much about my culture. I was just thinking, you know, when I was walking here outside, like you could just be walking down the street and see a Vietnamese restaurant, and then like a Chinese restaurant, and an Indian restaurant. There's like all these different types of foods, right? That's all going on here in New York City, but it wasn't like that in the rest of the country in the 70s. I was vegetarian. Does anybody know what vegetarian means? Most of you can raise your hand. What does it mean to be vegetarian?
You don't eat meat.
You don't eat meat, right? But people would ask me, can you eat bread? Can you eat broccoli? Can you eat tomatoes? Can you eat pasta? They would ask me questions, and I just, you know, I was very surprised by these questions. Now I can say it, and I can go downstairs to the Au Bon Pain, and they'll have vegetarian food. But it wasn't like that in the 70s. So when we came here, my dad was a professor, and he came here on a visiting scholarship. That means he was just here for a year. He got a job in Iowa, and you guys can sit down. Thank you. I just realized you're still standing here. He came here, we sold all our things. We sold our house, we sold all our possessions. We sold our collection of Beatles records, which is a big deal, because if you had them now, they would be worth a lot of money. We sold everything to just come here for a year. And we came to Iowa, and my dad got a permanent job at the University of Iowa. So that's what they were like. My dad was the first person to go to college on his side of the family. Okay, yeah.
My grandma did that. She had to sell all her things to come to America.
Where did she come from?
She came from New York.
From where?
New York, Dominican Republic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Argentina.
So then she had to sell her house. No, not her house, but she had to sell like some stuff to come here. And then when she came here, she got a job, and then she came back and then gave some of her family money to come to America.
Wow, I mean that's an amazing story. And do some of you have people in your house that are from another country? How many of you were born in another country? Okay. Do any of you speak another language at home? See, that's amazing. So you kind of have a house that I had when I was growing up. We spoke different languages at home. We came from another country. We had to start off brand new, right? My parents had $30 when they first came here. You know what the first thing we bought when we came here was a TV. So this was sort of what my parents were like. And when I was 9, I said to them, I want to be a writer, I told my mom. And my dad had just come over here. He was the first person to get a degree, and I said, I want to be a writer. Do you know what she said? She said, oh no. She said, oh no, like tragedy, disaster, you want to be a writer. Why did she say that, do you think? Yeah.
That maybe she wanted you to be something else.
Like
Like a dancer or something.
a dancer? I don't think she wanted me to be a dancer. Professor? What else? Yeah? A doctor?
A singer.
A what?
A singer.
A singer? Possibly, but I think you're right. Doctor, engineer, scientist, yeah.
Something's wrong.
Law, yeah, something that would get me a good job, okay? A writer, what does a writer mean? What does a writer do? I never saw any writers. They never saw any writers, yeah.
Make books.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's what writers did, but it was a scary thing to be a writer, yeah.
It's because you have to buy a lot of paper.
It's a lot.
You have to buy a computer.
Thank you. You have to buy, yeah, well, the cheapest part is the equipment, you know. But the selling part is what's hard, making a living, making sure that people keep buying your books and pay you to do that is hard. And she was scared, yeah. Did you want to add something? So, oh, sure, you can ask a question. You do, but it's very little and it takes time. So when you first sell your book, you get a small amount at the beginning. And then as you start selling more books, your publisher will give you more money. Yeah.
How many books did you
How many books have I sold? This is my first book. Yeah, I'm a debut author. That means that's my first author. Yeah, you have a question?
So you still write books?
I am. I'm going to tell you about my book that I'm writing right now. Maybe at the end. Another question about me?
It's actually a comment. My sister, she's 15. She wrote a 22-chapter book, 23, and she read the whole thing to me while we were in Virginia last year. And she said that she might publish it.
Yeah, so it's a long journey to publishing, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. Gosh, you guys are so full of questions. Yeah.
How long did it take you to write the book?
Okay, well, why don't I answer that, and then I'll talk about other stuff. So that's going to be one of my questions. It's going to be one of my poster questions. How long do you think it took me to publish Vanished? Somebody we haven't heard from yet. You.
2 months.
2 months. Okay, what else?
A few weeks.
A few weeks. 2 years.
A year.
A year. Well, you in the green.
5 months.
5 months.
15 months.
15 months. We're not even close, guys.
2.5
2.5 years. You. 3 weeks? No. Longer, much longer. Okay, we're getting the 3 to 4 years.
5 years.
Who said 5 years? 5 years. Okay. Any more?
Yeah.
One last one. You there. Yeah.
Around 6 years.
Okay. 6 years. 6 years is how long it took. You get a poster. Yeah. 6 years. Well, you have 2 more chances, guys. 6 years. What takes so long? Why is it 6 years? Let's name some things that could be part of my timeline. Yeah. Right, so there's an editing process. Once a publisher buys your book, okay, it took me about a year to just edit it. You know what editing means? Not just changing typos, but actually changing whole chapters, taking out chapters, taking out characters, putting in new characters, writing new paragraphs, taking out typos, everything. All of that stuff took about a year. So that's 1 year. What else? Yeah.
You have to think of a good storyline to get your book to be good.
Yeah, so just the story takes time to figure out a mystery. My story started at the beginning. My instrument vanished, and then I had to decide, how did that happen? I had to come up with the reason. I didn't have it in the beginning. And I kept writing, and then that took about a year to get all my clues, all my characters, my suspects, the motives, all of that lined up, so it added up to the end. Okay, so story. The story took a year, the editing took a year, what else?
It took about 2 years to sell all the books. And
Yes. Very good. It took me about 2 years actually to sell the book. It took me a year to find an agent. An agent is somebody who helps you sell your book. And then it took us a year to find a publisher, who's Disney. Disney bought my book. Yes?
And it took me days to publish and revise.
Yeah, so we got that, but you're right. Even after the revision was done, it does take a year to come up with a cover and to send it out. We first get a soft copy called an advanced reader copy or an ARC. You get that first, and then you get this beautiful product at the end. That takes time too. So we're about 3 years. Yeah.
What inspired you from the
Okay, we'll get to that in a second. What else is in my timeline? Why did it take 6 years?
like good words.
Yeah, to write, you're right. To write a good book takes time. You have to study the craft. It takes years. I went to school, and that's how I learned how to write better. But not everybody has to go to writing school. Anything else? Yeah.
I just read the audio.
You like my entries? Thank you. Okay. Oh, anything else to say? Okay. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have two.
You have 2 questions. Okay.
Who inspired you to write this book? And that what?
Okay, what inspired me to write the book? What was your other question?
It's hard to get through things independently.
Was it hard to get what?
Through things independently.
What does that mean?
Like, in the book, you didn't have an instrument. Was it hard for you? I didn't do the rest of the book without
Without my, I'm sorry.
being.
Without my Vina? Without having a Vina, how did I write the book? I'm sorry, I'm just,
Can I help you out, Troy?
yeah.
She said, was it hard to do things independently without the security of your instrument? So it's very specific about the story. Maybe that's a question we'll answer a little bit later.
Okay, so let's talk about what inspired me, because somebody else asked me that question. My book started off as a gift for my niece. And my niece, her name is Sheela Chari, okay, and she was about 8 or 9. And I was writing, I had just finished my schooling, I'd gone to NYU, and I got an MFA, which is like a Master's of Fine Arts, but it was basically I studied writing. And I was writing an adult book, an adult novel. And my niece, Sheela, was about 8 or 9, and it was her birthday. And I didn't have a birthday present for her. And I was very close to her. She lives in Boston, and I lived here. And so I was on the phone, and I said, Sheela, I'm going to write a story about you. And she loved mysteries. She was reading Harry Potter. Have any of you read the whole series? She was about halfway through that series at that time. And she loved the whole thing. And I wanted to write something just as fun and mysterious as those series. So I started writing a book. And she plays the Vina. I play the violin, actually. I don't play this instrument that I'm writing about, and I didn't have one. But because the story was for her, I wrote about her instrument. And I said, I'm going to write a story about you. It's going to be a mystery about your instrument disappearing. And I wrote just the first line of the story right there. And that's how the story started. That's how it was inspired. The idea was inspired by her. But as I kept writing, this story became a lot more interesting to me than my adult novel. Because I realized that the books that I loved reading the most was when I was about 10. And now I was writing about, a book about a person who might be read by a 10-year-old. This is the kind of book that I loved reading most when I was little.
Don't vanish and disappear.
Yes, vanished means disappear. Yes. Yeah. 2 questions? Okay.
What did you start the interested in writing?
Well, so my story that I started, and I kind of got off course, was 9. When I was 9, that was when I thought I wanted to be a writer. And I didn't have a computer. I wrote in a notebook. I had a pencil. And my first stories were about things I didn't know. I wrote about 2 friends who were best friends in Tennessee. I'd never been to Tennessee. But the story I wrote was about them moving away and coming back. Right? I wrote about King Arthur. I didn't know much about medieval England, but I wrote about King Arthur.
Okay,
So, and another question.
do you like to write novels or mystery books?
Well, I had never written mystery until I started this book. And it was a lot of stuff for me to learn. I didn't know how to write pieces that were involved. And we're going to actually try that in a little while. We're going to try writing a mystery together, an idea for a mystery. Yeah.
How old is Lena?
What's that?
How old is Lena?
She's now almost 17. Yeah, but she was 8 or 9 when I started. Now she's almost grown up. So that was how I started. Okay, I'm going to answer you. And then I'm going to talk for a little while. Yeah.
Do you have
Okay, all right. So I didn't play the Vina. I'd never written a mystery before. And now I wanted to write this book about a missing Vina. How was I going to do it? How was I going to do my research? All right. Neil lived in Boston. I lived in New York. So the first place I went was on the computer. I went to Google and I searched Vina. Okay. And I found out, well, Vina has, so many strings. It's made out of, and I'm gonna show you one now. Actually, I'm gonna pull it up. And I tried to do my research online. I found out all the research elements that I could. When was it made? How was it made? But that wasn't enough for me because I felt like if I had to write about somebody who loved playing this instrument, I had to dig deeper. Okay. Now this is not a real Vina. The real Vina is bigger. This is like a model. It doesn't play. This is what I got first. I actually have a Vina now, and I'm just going to walk around slowly, and I'm going to ask, how big do you think the real Vina is? And whoever guesses will get a poster. Whoever gets the closest. This is a miniature, a model Vina. How big do you think the real Vina? Yeah. 5 feet? What did you want to say?
I think it's big as a speaker.
As big as a speaker? What do you guess?
From here to here.
Okay, so you have to give me feet.
7 feet.
7 feet. Oh, okay. You want to guess? 5.5. Okay.
I'm guessing about how many feet is this?
This is about 2.
We'll guess that about 4 feet.
4 feet. Okay, before we take more guesses, let me tell you a little bit about it, okay? So the real Vina looks pretty much like this. I mean, the detail on this is great. There are 7 strings, and 4 of them, I'm gonna come down in just a moment. 4 of them are the ones that you pluck, okay? And then these 3 keep the beat. And I wish I could bring you my real one, but I'm not gonna tell you how big it is yet. The best Vinas are made out of a single block of wood, and it's a very special wood that grows in India. It's the wood of the jackfruit, the wood of the jackfruit tree. I don't know if any of you have ever seen a jackfruit. It's this kind of prickly, spiny fruit, and when you open it up, it has these sweet, sticky sections inside. Has anybody had jackfruit? It's possible. You've heard of it, yeah. So that wood is special, just like, have you heard of the Stradivarius violins? Those are really special violins that were built in Italy. And the wood for those come from a special part of Italy, and they don't know why that wood is so special. And likewise, the wood in India that is used to build this is special to that area. You hold it by sitting on the ground, and you rest this on your body and pluck it. Okay, so let's have some more people try. Guess and try out. How big do you think it is? 6 feet. 6.5 feet. You want to guess? No. Okay. How about you?
I think it's like
8 or 10 feet. Wow. Okay. 7 feet. Okay. 8 feet. Do you want to try it? No? Okay. 9. 9 feet. So I didn't play this instrument. So I didn't know what it was like to practice it, but I played the violin. So part of my research was not doing research, but imagining, when I played the violin, I would get these calluses. Does anybody here play the violin or the cello or any instrument? Yeah, if you play a long time, your fingers get these calluses, right? And first it hurts, but once you build them up, you can play better, and they're good for you. I mean, they help you. They toughen up your fingers, right? Yeah.
I think it's 7 to 8 feet.
7 to 8 feet. Okay.
11 feet.
11 feet.
10 and a half.
10 and a half. Okay. Any one last guess? Huh? 13. 4 was the right number. So, what did you say? You said 4. Well, you both said 4. Oh, okay. So I'll give you one and I'll give you one. Okay. Mine is 4. Sometimes they can be larger. They can be 4.5. They can be 5. But I have a smaller one. And they're really big. They're hard to kind of carry around. The one that I brought from India, just like in the story, Neela gets her veena from her grandmother. My veena is from my husband's grandmother. And it was sitting in the house for about 30 years or more. And then my mother-in-law said, would you like to have it? After I wrote this book, she thought I might like to have it. The question was, how was I going to bring it from India all the way back to New York?
By plane.
Who illustrated this? We'll get to that in a second. How was I going to bring it back? So I went to a veena maker, just like the one in the book, Govinda. I went to a veena maker. He fixed up the veena. He put new paint on it. He changed the resonator, and he painted up this. We didn't talk about this yet. The dragon. This is my favorite part. This is my favorite part of the veena. Okay. Yeah, in fact, afterwards when you come up, you guys you can look at it again.
Can I feel it?
Yeah. Some of you can feel it, and then whoever hasn't felt it, you can come up later and look at it too. 'Cause I can't get in all the. So the dragon was my favorite part. I wanted to make it part of my mystery, okay? Because why is there a dragon in so many cultures? In Indian culture, Chinese, Japanese, European.
Country.
It could represent your country. What else?
Because Asian, I think Asia, India, I think Asia, right?
Yeah.
So that most people from Asia, they believe in, I think they believe in dragons, something like that.
Yeah.
And they believe that dragon brings good luck.
Good. That's very good. In fact, the dragon on the veena is thought to be good luck. It's supposed to be auspicious, and it helps you to play well. It doesn't do anything in terms of playing on the instrument, but it's supposed to bring good luck. And I think the dragon is seen as good luck in many different cultures. Okay. So this was one part that I had to figure out how to write. How to write about an instrument. The other part was writing the mystery. We'll get to. Does anybody have any more questions about the veena or about the book? Should we take some more questions? Yeah.
If the book was like a private story, how come on the front of it it says story and not the house?
Oh, that's a good question. So the book started off as a gift for my niece. If you go to the acknowledgement, I thank her. I thank my brother's family. In fact, my nephew's in the story too. He's Sri. And I really have a nephew called Sri. And I didn't use everything in their lives as a basis for my book. It's not really about Neela, the real person. It's her name, and it's about a girl who plays the veena. So I acknowledge all of them, but because it was my first book, I dedicated it to my mom. Because even though I told you the story about how she said, oh no, how can you want to be a writer and all of that, she ended up being my biggest supporter. My parents really have been there to support me after the book got published, and I decided that this is what I was going to do.